Hi, my name is Carl Valeri, host of Aviation Careers Podcast. I've been an aviation career coach since 2001. And if you've ever looked into the dream of flying and this really cool career, this is something that is really appeals to you because of all the glamour and all the cool things about airplanes. Well, some people don't want to get involved in actually flying the airplanes. Imagine a world of private jets, exclusive clients and limitless possibilities. This glamorous life is actually that of a jet charter broker. And this may be the job for you. And to help us talk about that is Lindsay Begno, who's actually with justlandedjets.com and is going to give us a little bit of help as to what this life is of a jet charter broker. First of all, Lindsay, it's great to see you and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carl. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and kind of share what we do. We're a really mystery part of the aviation world, so hopefully we can shed a little light on that and maybe grow the industry a little bit more.
Absolutely. We talk about charter, and a lot of times we talk about, brokerage as far as selling aircraft, and we're more into that, or we talk about charter companies, but you are a jet charter broker. So maybe you could explain what that is and possibly maybe even dispel some of the misconceptions of that role.
Sure. So a jet charter broker, we're a connection piece. We have the pilots and operators of these private jet aircraft and the end users. Operators they work on more of a regional scale. Usually most operators have a home base and a set fleet of aircraft. And then we've got the clientele who maybe let's say they fly out of Atlanta and it's just a business trip. They always fly two passengers. But when Christmas rolls around and they want to go spend a week in Tahoe and they've got the kids and the grandkids and they need something for 12 passengers now, maybe that doesn't fit in with where they normally fly with their usual team. And that's kind of where I come in. So you're never locked into contracts. You're never locked into anything or one specific aircraft type or model or size. We really will scour the market to find something that suits the mission for that client.
And this is not just the travel. Can you do the other part, like connect all the pieces, like more of a bespoke type of travel experience?
We can. It's always tough because the actual charter flight is our main component of everything we do. And that's where we'll make all of our money. So we can assist with ground transportation, catering, but those are usually the things that are the most out of our control and will go wrong worse than anything else on a flight.
Gotcha. So in other words, the person is just going to want to get from point A to point B. And a lot of times I've heard people, they try to maybe get them to their hotel and that's about it, and then and from there on they have their own travel, beyond the actual hotel or their residence, whatever it may be. But one of the things that I think that a lot of people don't understand is, like, let me give you an example. If I'm here in Lakeland and I want to take 5 people to Charlotte, North Carolina, you're in Pensacola right now. How do we arrange that?
So, okay, that's a great example. So let's say you guys are going on a golf trip. You're going to call Lindsay up and say, hey, I've got my friends. We really want to go on this golf trip in North Carolina, but we're going to go one way because we're all going to spread out after that. So we just need the one flight. Maybe a home base operator there in Lakeland isn't going to be the best option for you. You're going to pay that positioning to get back to home base. Maybe you're staying for 2 weeks because you've got extra business going on there. Well, the crew can't stay for 2 weeks, so you're going to pay 2 round trips. And that's where I'll pop in. So we take a look at the entire market. I'm going to look at our floating fleet operators out there with large fleets and no static home base. I'm also going to look at who is in North Carolina and maybe that area, and they're down on Florida in a business trip for a week and they need to make some money on their plane and they want to get it back up north because they wanted to make money. And then I'm going to try to find somebody in North Carolina to take it right back south so it can be there to pick up this businessman when his meetings are over for the week. So it's a lot of a puzzle game trying to piece these things together. That's where the savings comes in for the clients, right? Where they can really, instead of paying that round trip pricing, we can pass along those discounted one-way pricing and empty leg options to the clients. But then for our operator friends on the other side, they have snowbirds that they need to get from one home to the other. They need to get back to that home base, and they will come to me and say, Lindsay, these are my empty legs this week. Can you help us find clientele to satisfy these empty legs so that we're not repoing back and eating the cost of all this fuel? So we always try and work together really well. A charter broker has not always been well received by the industry. It was kind of a dirty word for a long time, for the first 15 years or so. It is a new industry. So when I say 15 years, that's the majority until just maybe the last
Wow.
5. We were always seen as kind of bottom feeders, that we would just try to undercut operators. And that was really the wrong way to look at it. No, we want to help you just as much as we want to help our clientele. And of course, they would love to have the clientele come to them directly. But that plane that is heading up to North Carolina, maybe they never even knew this client existed to get their plane back south because they focus on Lakeland only. Whereas a charter broker, we're completely global. We have no home base, no focus. And that's actually one of the big perks of being a charter broker is I can live anywhere I want.
Right.
So it's a nice, usually remote job. That's why it takes a very special person to do this job. You have to have a lot of dedication. But we don't have a home base and we don't focus on one region at all.
So you're basically you can go anywhere. I mean, I'm sure there's brokers that work in specific regions. They specialize on the eastern U.S. or whatever. But what's interesting is it sounds like you really need to have a huge network, don't you?
You do. You absolutely do. So the best thing I can do day to day is to earn my paycheck, I need to have a good network. And that means, you start with that one flight, you do an incredible job, count on those referrals, ask for the referrals, and really spread your name that way. But the other side, I have to maintain impeccable relationships with the aircraft operators. I need them. They need me less, but I need them. I cannot do my job without these aircraft because remember, we don't own anything. We are just strictly a broker between the two. I have to be good to my crew members, to the ground crew, to the dispatchers, to the sales team, at all of these operators around the globe. And the community is very small. So word of mouth travels incredibly fast. Lindsay was rude to me when I did this, or Lindsay paid me late. If then the word will spread. Suddenly I have no product to offer to my clients. So really the relationships that you maintain throughout the industry are critical.
It's very reputation based, and that is so
Absolutely.
important. In that reputation, trying to hold on to that is very important. But in doing that, actually doing your job and doing it well is important, and putting out this integrity into that world of aviation is important. But let's get a little more nitty gritty about this. The actual job itself. I just asked you about going from Lakeland to Charlotte, right? And how do you start that, and how do you start getting things together, and what are some of the challenges that you find when you're putting something like that together?
Sure. So I'll start. I'm going to look at all the aircraft available in Lakeland that suit the needs. So it doesn't make sense for me to look at an ultralight jet when I have 4 or 5 guys in golf clubs. So no VLJs, those are out. Without that many clubs, most light jets are going to be out as well. We might be looking at either the flight time is okay that we could use a Pilatus or something along that line. We could also go to a midsize or super light jet. So we kind of have to look at all the features. You have to have quite a bit of knowledge on this side of the industry because as an operator, maybe I only operate a fleet of Hawker 800s and I will know the Hawker 800 front to back. In this field, you have to know a little bit about everything. At a minimum, luggage, runway, you know, average distance that this aircraft can travel, seating capacity, so that you can actually provide the appropriate service to your clients. So with your trip, I'm going to look around the Lakeland area. I'm going to go all the way down to Miami. I'm going to go all the way to southern Georgia. Just because you're in Lakeland doesn't mean there's not a plane sitting in Orlando that's usually from Atlanta, right? So we kind of take a look of everything that's going to be in the area at your time of departure. I'm also going to go up to the North Carolina area and search those aircraft because I don't know who they're taking, you know, who's taking their kids to Disney that weekend and then getting on a cruise and not coming back for another week. That plane might need to get back to its home base in North Carolina. I'm going to cover both ends. I'm also going to hit our floating fleet operators and see who can provide the best price for me to take back to my client.
It seems very complex, but I guess through experience, you do get to know the whole world out there of charter and all the different things you talked about. But getting into that field, I'm thinking, you know, when I just asked you about the charter, I'm assuming your calls can come in at any time. That's what I was just thinking about. I just talked to you. It's 12 o'clock noon right now. Do you ever get calls like in the middle of the night?
At least for 3, 4 nights a week.
Oh,
At
wow.
least. So I have one client. So these are how your relationships start. I have one client who is a real estate developer, mostly in the Middle East. And he started with a flight from Miami to LA. And here I think, oh, great, he's wonderful. We fly back and forth between Miami and LA, maybe DC. He also has a home in New York. So we're keeping it here. 4 months down the road, I figure out, nope, he's not really a very American, just American only flyer. Well, now we're flying to London. From there, he has meetings. This summer has been very, very hectic for him between the Middle East, southern Spain, Italy. He calls me, he texts me 3 to 4 nights a week, and that is just one client. So from there, you know, he and I have now worked together at this point for 6 or 7 years. He's given my number to other, you know, government officials, other real estate developers, other businessmen. Even one was a new social media company. They call me at all hours of the night, anytime. So if you are somebody that needs your 8 hours of beauty sleep, you might want to think again. If you're somebody who can nap on the fly when you know that you get a break for about 90 minutes, then this job might be the one for you.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges, but it's also can be for somebody like me who actually wakes up in the middle of the night and enjoys that. And also the complexity is really cool. But to be able to do this, it seems like it takes a unique individual in my mind. So what are some of those skills you would think that you would need to be able to do this type of a brokerage?
To be a charter broker, you need to be incredibly hardworking. Like I said, if you need that 8 hours of sleep, it's not going to be for you. I have to wake up because that guy is my paycheck, right? I do not get paid if he is not flying with me. So anytime I say, I'm just too tired, I'm not going to answer the phone, he can find some other charter broker out there who's going to answer the phone for him at 3 in the morning. And there goes several $1,000s a year of my pay. It really is demanding. So if you are somebody who is grinding all the time, ready to work hard, then this really could be the job for you. There isn't a lot of schooling. There really isn't. You do not need a college education to do this job. In fact, several of my coworkers and my own team have never attended college. And that's okay. If the college path isn't for you, but you have a love of aviation, this could be your field. But you have to be willing to wake up when others won't, to work past 5 o'clock when others won't. I do not have a time punch card, punch in, punch out, because that doesn't exist in this world. I have gotten up from the Thanksgiving dinner table because a client called or I had a mechanical needed to recover a flight. I have literally been sitting at front of Magic Kingdom in front of the castle during the fireworks show with thousands of people around me enjoying
Mhm.
it. And I have my laptop in my lap because I had to take it into Disney World. And I've worked in recover trips and sold trips. I probably have sold, I don't know, 20 trips from Disney World in my life. But
Well,
that is a part of this job.
yeah, and well, and with that said, I mean, there's other jobs similar, right? That are out there.
Mhm.
You're tied, and if that is something that doesn't appeal to you, then obviously this wouldn't be for you. But if it is, and that sounds exciting too. I mean, that you're always making deals basically, which is kind of cool. But this really could be something that is exciting and also rewarding. So let's talk a little bit about that. And one of the things that I'd like to talk about a lot of times is what's the earnings potential for someone. So let's kind of look at that, like from who's getting started, and how do you get started, like find a mentor, all the way to the mid level, and then what would be the top level as far as earnings are concerned.
Sure. So I say this a lot, and I truly do mean this. If you are willing to put in the work, this is the easiest six-figure job in the world. There, I know it sounds shocking, and I never believed it until I got into this specific position. There are no shortage of private flyers out there. You would think it's tough to find. It's not. They really are everywhere, and it's people that you would never expect. If you can get that first year in knowing that most of these positions tend to be commission only or a very small salary to start, and you have a lot to learn. A great mentor is critical in this position when you get in. There are so many tiny facets that you may not ever realize, from customs regulations to the high and hot rules in the mountains, what's going to need a fuel stop with weights here and there. And like I mentioned before, the seating configurations, the runway lengths. These are just little tiny things. Even overflight permits. There's things people don't have any clue about out there. So a mentor is critical. You really need to find someone who's going to give you their time, but you also have to be respectful of that time because they're losing money for every second they're helping you learn.
Yeah,
So if
absolutely.
you're not 100% committed to really making this work, then, you know, it's just not going to work out for you. However, if you get a great mentor and you really start working and grinding hard as that first year, you can clear six figures very easily. And that works with repeat clientele. You don't need to do as much work to get that second trip and the third trip and the referrals, and everything kind of snowballs. So while it does start small in year one and year two, by year three, most brokers will make at least $150,000. By year five, we're about $250,000. I have no shortage of brokerage friends who are clearing $400,000 right now. And if you land those monster contracts, the big corporate contracts for large corporations that just need aircraft every single day, then that is where you will be clearing $1 million as a broker.
Wow,
There's
that's
less of them out there.
yeah,
There's
absolutely.
less of them. I would love to be one somewhere someday, but I also have children and a family, and I cannot commit that much time to really hand my life over and become $1 million broker. I'm much more comfortable at like the half million and below brokerage, just because it really is a sacrifice. That's one thing probably most people don't think about coming into this position is you do sacrifice a lot of your personal relationships. Being on call 24 hours a day can be very hard on a partner, on your children, on your friends and family. Trust me, my mother does not like it if I get up from the dinner table at Thanksgiving to go work on this trip, but she does understand that's my job. And that's how it is. My husband constantly tells me, go take that phone call in the other room. I'm sleeping, in the middle of the night when it goes off. But it's part of the job. And that is what is the defining characteristic between a good broker and a bad broker is who's going to be there when you need them, who's going to pick up the phone.
And when you pick up the phone, that would lead to extra pay for you. Basically, working
Absolutely.
harder, the more you make. And so I understand better. This is more like how is it structured? Like on a commission basis?
Yep, Exactly. So almost everything is commission. A few companies have a small base salary, and of course, along with that is a lower commission rate. And some companies, if you're willing to take that gamble on yourself, then you can have that higher commission rate with no base salary. And this job very much is similar to a gambling addiction. You see, I sort when I'm sourcing my aircraft for your trip to North Carolina, I know exactly that let's say this trip should run about $15,000. And I'm going to go look around for an aircraft. And when I find an empty leg at 8,000, I just hit the jackpot. That is me pulling my lever on the slot machine and getting all the cherries, right?
Right.
So I get excited because not only is my client expecting 15,000, but he's going to get it for 12. And instead of my smaller margin of, let's say, $1,500, I'm going to make a $3,000 margin. We'll kind of meet in the middle there. So I make a little more money, they save a little more money, and the operator doesn't have to eat the cost of that empty leg. And then you see the contract come in. For example, right this second, I am waiting on a wire transfer to arrive for a $150,000 flight from Italy to Utah that came in at 3:45 yesterday morning. I sourced it as soon as I woke up. The bank, now he's reviewed it in Italy. The bank is sending the wire now. He's already signed his contracts. But I'm on cloud nine today because I just, I paid my mortgage in one night. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
of course, that's really critical, is being there when the money is there, being ready to work when the money is coming in.
Yeah, that actually sounds really exciting, because you see the reward right away,
Hmm.
to your hard work. I mean, I'm sure there's disappointments too. You work on a deal and it falls through, and there's that part too. You
Every
got to be
day.
able to pick yourself up and just get started. So if you're that type of person, it might be a little bit tough. You have to have a lot of really good solid base internally, to do this job, which it sounds like you do. And you also, this is another interesting thing. You have to speak, I guess, differently to different people. Like, I'm sure your clients range from CEOs to attorneys. By the way, the sponsor of this is the law offices of Robert M. Strumer LLC. Thank you for the sponsorship. This podcast is sponsored by the law offices of Robert M. Strumer LLC. You can find them at www.strumerlaw.com. The law offices of Robert M. Strumer LLC handles various aviation matters, including FAA safety investigations and pilot medical certifications. You can find them on the web at www.strumerlaw.com. But if you're talking to an attorney, or you're talking to a land developer or any other a yacht broker, etc., you may want to understand their language and what they do, I would assume.
Absolutely. For example, with your attorney, sponsor of the show, time is money. When I'm on the phone with him, we're not going to chit chat about how are the kids? Did you have your dog on board this flight? No. Okay. You guys still, you want it stocked with cold Diet Coke? Gotcha. I need to be able to memorize these things for these clients, or at least have a note system somewhere. But his time is important. So I really need to speak direct, firm, time, dates, destinations. You got it. I'll send it to you. You'll have it in 5 minutes. On the other hand, sometimes I have a grandma who is flying with her grandkids cross country to take them on a trip to go, visit their winter home, their mountain home, something like that. And I say, "Oh, well, what are the kids like? Are they still into coloring books, or, what can we put on board to make this flight a little more special for them? Oh, how was your summer? Did you guys go somewhere? Did you have fun together?" That's a much more friendly conversation. And then sometimes my true colors show when I have the retired rancher from down the street is now ready to go out on a hunting trip, and he's traveling with all his firearms, so he doesn't necessarily want to fly commercial. And I go, "What you hunting for?" That's my South Texas roots will come out, and I can speak completely, as myself to that clientele. And then I get, the aristocrats in the UK, or in anywhere in Europe, and I have to speak formally. I've flown former presidents before and had to put on my game face. That's actually one of my worst stories in this position, is flying a wonderful former president who I fully respect and was one of my highlights of my career. I'm on cloud nine. All they wanted for their catering was just some simple fruit and cheese. Nothing, just fruit and cheese, a little plate, just a snack on while they have this short 90-minute flight. The local caterer, who was supposed to provide this, outsourced my catering to somebody else. And I got a picture from the crew of the fruit and cheese. It was sliced up apples that had already turned brown and Kraft singles still in the plastic.
Oh
And I
no.
thought, how am I supposed to serve this to this world dignitary and not be humiliated later? And it was a little bit one of those situations of, please, crew, help me make the best of this bad situation. Like I said, we have to work together. If I had treated this crew poorly, and I almost did basically by forcing this bad catering that they then have to present to a president, you know,
Right.
it's there are hard times in this job that there's nothing you can control about the situation. At that point, we're at wheels up. We're at wheels up departure time, and all I've got is plastic craft singles.
Wow. But hey, you gotta adapt and overcome, right? And try to make the best of the situation. And those are the things that I think, they make you better. They make you stronger, and realize the fact that you can overcome these type of things. But that's a heck of a story, and keeping your composure during that is really, really important. You mentioned dignitaries and flying people around. That marketplace of people that are flying privately. I can speak towards that upper end, that higher earner is actually, and higher net worth individual marketplace has actually grown on the private ownership, etc. I'm also assuming that it's growing in your field, which is a similar field. But how also can we look at this from an outlook standpoint? I feel it's a great outlook.
I do too. So here are some stats in the private jet charter world. Pre-COVID, there were about 100,000 private flyers in the United States. After 2020, it jumped to 1.1 million. So this is a massive jump. With an aging inventory, pricing has gotten a bit expensive, but now what was a shock to our usual private flyers has a little bit worn off. And we're getting to a place where more and more people are flying privately every day. The good things about our aging population is they have large bank accounts, they've retired, and now they're just not in a position to get on a commercial flight. It can become very difficult for them. And while they have their bank account, we're now seeing more and more older individuals willing to spend that money, even though it's a luxury. 1,000%, it's a luxury. They're willing to put that money there for just their comfort to get from point A to point B. So we're seeing it great. The other part of the industry that's really fascinating and has never happened in my lifetime is the younger crowd being able to afford private travel. Influencers, I'm always shocked. I still remember the first flight, this first charter I booked for a company. We're doing a G4 cross country from LA to the Bahamas. And I go, who is this 17-year-old on this flight? It was paid for by an adult by their mother. And I go, who is just sending a 17-year-old and their friend cross country? And of course, our trip support team immediately recognizes the name and freaks out because it's, very popular TikTok influencer. And I go, they can afford this? I didn't realize there was that much money in this field. But we're starting to see more and more younger individuals, 20 and 30-year-olds, flying constantly. And that is really interesting. That's one thing you mentioned earlier about the way I address myself, the way I'm addressing a lawyer versus our Texas ranchers. With them, it better be fast, better be digital, and it better be done. So they want everything text, send me links. They're very tech savvy. And if you're not prepared for that side of this business, it can be tough. So thankfully, I've really worked hard to educate myself on texting methods, links, whatever, every sort of form to make this as seamless as possible for that younger generation. It's been incredible, actually. That's a huge new boom coming into the market that we're seeing, and it's wonderful.
I tell you, listening to you talk about this, I can tell you're passionate about it, and it sounds like a lot of fun. And if someone's watching right now or listening, by the way, justlandedjets.com, there'll be a link down below. Go check it out and just to see what happens there. You see the crew that's there, but I think one of the things we need to talk a little bit about, and we talked about getting into this, is now what? Now you spurred my interest. I really wanted to know more about this, and you've given me a lot of information. We could talk forever, but who do you feel would be a good match for this type of a job?
Our best matches are those who are driven. If you are willing to succeed and know that you can put your family, your friendships, either to the side for a little bit till you can kind of get rolling, or at least have those honest conversations that say, I'm going to get up from the dinner table and I know you're talking to me, but I'm going to have to answer this email. It is critical. If you are somebody who is willing to put that aside and really work hard, you can crush it at this job. I truly believe anybody can walk in and do this job, but you have to be willing to do the hard work. And don't get discouraged after year one and your paycheck isn't where you would like it to be. You don't have that many sales. It builds. This lifespan, I was telling you, Carl, earlier, people only last as a charter brokerage an average of 7 years. It is very demanding. I have been on call 24/7 for 15 years straight.
Wow.
I did have a break here or there when I went on vacation for a week, but my phone automatically forwarded and my emails got forwarded to somebody else. But those are very few and far between. I am usually on vacation with my phone because I know I'm giving up my money to somebody else if I don't answer my phone, and my clients are expecting me to answer the phone. If you can live with that lifestyle of kind of potentially letting down your family and friends every now and then, but making sure they know how valued they are, but this is also an important thing, that you're really trying to get this career off the ground, then there's no stopping you. You will build every year your list of clientele and have something amazing within 10 years. If you make it to 10 years, you are one of the senior leaders in this industry. And that's really great. If you are 22 years old thinking, that actually sounds like I would be a good fit for me. If you are 22, then by 32, there's no stopping you with several $100,000 a year, a healthy list of clientele, and hopefully you've maintained those relationships that you kind of had to not give everything to right away, but you can have everything.
So if somebody's looking at this and they're thinking, is this for me? The rewards are there. It's just that there's the challenges and there's certain things you have to give up in life. But you have to answer that yourself. Is this challenge, and the challenge being the job itself, and also the challenge of giving up certain days of your life and hours, is it worth it? And there's a lot of people that love that. I mean, they love the thrill. They love that challenge and that constant high, which it sounds like you do.
Oh, for sure. I know that I love aviation. I love travel. I just am not cut out for the cockpit.
Right.
It's not for me. I'm not cut out for the cockpit, for the flight attendant life. I don't think I would be a very good flight dispatcher. I think I'm pretty outgoing. I don't think air traffic control is for me. So in the industry, being a little more outgoing absolutely helps. The more energy you put into this job, it comes back tenfold. And your clients hear the sincerity in your voice when you're excited to tell them, I found a great option. I'm sending it to you right now. It's incredible. It's a great plane. It's, the crew is Argus rated crew. You're going to really like this one. There's ways to really, bring your personality through in this job. And if you're passionate about it, it's going to come through, and it will help you sell your trips for sure.
I love listening to you talk, and I can tell the passion. But, another thing that I noticed, and there's something you said, the Argus rating. If you're somebody who's listening right now and doesn't understand what that is, there are certain parts of this. There's technology and there's organizations out there that you need to get to know. So what advice would you give to somebody who doesn't understand what you just said, what the Argus rating is? What would you tell them if they're getting started out? Any technologies they need to know?
You know, for sure, I'd suggest finding a mentor first. Somebody, even if you just shadow them for a day or two, see how tough it is in this life. I will say there are some perks. I usually go to the gym every day about 9 a.m., but my phone's on me still. But I'm not tied to my desk here, and like I said, we're remote, so I have a load of laundry in the dryer that I'm going to fold right after this. There are things that are make your home life really wonderful. And of course, we already talked about the downside of it. So I would suggest finding a mentor you can shadow. You can see the great things that come along with this job. You can also see the demanding clientele who wants something now that will leave you in a heartbeat. There's not a lot of loyalty in this field. And if you do find loyal clientele, wonderful. That's obviously the best kind that you want, but you can find those things. Google is your best friend in this job. We do have, at my company, I Just Landed Jets, we use Slack and we constantly ask each other questions in there. What do you think the best jet would be for a trip of this from here to here with this many passengers, and they're traveling with photography equipment or large video cameras for a movie shoot, right? So we'll always ask questions to each other, but also Google can tell you everything. So we always go back and forth between the two. When I wonder, oh, can I get that many suitcases on a Citation 10? Well, let's see what Google says,
Right.
and we'll try to find it there. And then I also have my close network. So I might go to some of our partners with large Citation 10 fleets like Baker Aviation or Charter Airlines, Discovery Jets. Even Bel Air right now just bought all the Challenger 300s, I'm sorry, Citation 10s from VistaJet. This closed last week. They are now the largest Citation 10 operator in the United States. They will tell me exactly how many suitcases fit in a Citation 10. So that's actually, one of our wonderful partners. We're partners with everybody. We need them and just pray that they keep needing us so we can kind of symbiotically have this wonderful relationship together.
Well, Lindsay, this has been great. I mean, I'm sure all people are, and I have more questions, and if you do have questions, feedback at aviationcareerspodcast.com. I'll forward them to Lindsay. Also, you can just go to the website, and it's justlandedjets.com, and reach out to Lindsay. And if you're somebody who's really interested in getting into this, either I can put you in touch with her and maybe have her back on. Lindsay, it'd be wonderful to have you back on again to talk more about this. And I think this is one of those things that if you're the type of person that likes to be in a certain location and loves the excitement, likes to do the brokerage, and likes to have that excitement of also being able to have this immediate feedback, meaning both in the pay and the accomplishment of being able to get someone from point A to point B and getting them fast there quickly and affordably, economically in certain respects, but also making sure that they get their job done. That's really rewarding. And the job could be just going on vacation. I think to me that's really cool. And that's just me talking. But I think that is something that we really need to look at when we're looking at a career. Is this for us? And I think Lindsay's done a great job. You really have, Lindsay, as far as describing what's the best type of things that would be for someone that gets getting into this. What's good for an individual, what's not so good. And I think and you've been very open about that. So I really appreciate that. Is there any last comments? Someone who is thinking now, yeah, this might be for me. Now what do I do?
You know what? There is one thing that I'll throw out there. This career is great for maybe pilots who are tired of flying. They're ready to just be home with the family, or they've retired, or sometimes we have a few pilots that, they had a change in their medical status. So now they don't want to leave the industry, and they have so much knowledge. They can walk in the door and sit down here. So this is, for them, we just build out the sales bit of their personality, because they have all the knowledge, the industry knowledge. This is one field. If we also have a lot of student pilots, who this is a great way to learn your airports, learn your aircraft, the multiple areas of knowledge in the aviation industry while they're working on that license. And maybe they just become a hobby pilot because they love charter brokering so much. I don't know if that ever happens, but if they could give it that love of aviation. But that is somebody, if you're on either end of this, a new pilot, an experienced pilot, and you are wanting to spend more time on the ground, then this really could be a great field for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a great summary. And this really is one of those exciting parts of the field, and just brokering those jets, the charters. And it's something that I think that a lot of people don't think about, but I think they should, because it's rewarding in many different ways. Lindsay, it's been great having you on. I really appreciate you coming here. And if somebody is interested, go to justlandedjets.com and check them out there. feedback@aviationcareerspodcast.com. Send us an email. We'll forward it on to Lindsay. But the most important thing, if you are interested in this, is to keep moving forward and don't stop here. Like when this is done, start looking up on the internet. How do you get involved in the jet charter brokerage business? Get involved in different organizations. But most importantly, take one step every single day so that you can move forward in your career and in your life, just like Lindsay has done. Well, we appreciate you. Safe flying out there. We'll talk to you next episode.